What's up, guys? So let's get into today's Q&A. Thoughts on Ensigns for a guy totaling around 450 kilos, especially the 4 and 5 day versions. So I looked at it. I wasn't familiar with that, and it's kind of a derivative of 531, very similar. And I think most linear style programs for late novice, early intermediates, middle intermediates, and even for advanced lifters, a linear block, just like a pure linear periodized block, can have value as well. So it just falls in line with kind of some of those other ones. I think it lacks in some accessory work. I think you could squeeze some accessory work in there. The volume on the main lifts are kind of, the gist of the program. But it's fine. Like most of the other ones, it's fine. With a lot of these linear style programs, I particularly like Juggernaut a lot. Just the way it builds from the volume and goes on down. I think probably of the basic like linear cookie cutter programs I've seen, that one is probably the best in my opinion. You often consider load management to be a keystone of injury prevention. Is there a way to determine if you're doing too much? Personally, I've been steadily increasing volume for a year now, but my joints feel great, muscles get sore, but are fully recovered before every session. You're doing fine. The body adapts, the body adjusts. Me personally, even when everything is feeling fine, I try to throw in a deload. Deloads are meant to be preemptive, not reactive. Or proactive would be a better word there. Proactive, not reactive. Just throw one in for the sake of throwing one in, even if you're feeling great, if you've been, steadily and not taking time off. Now, like if you've taken a vacation during that time or something like that, or, where you didn't really lift or something, that by all means, those are deloads too. Sometimes life, allows you to or forces its own deloads. But I mean, there's guidelines, and I don't know if, given that you're increasing pressing volume, I don't know, are you like strength focused? Are you hypertrophy focused, or somewhere in between, or whatever the case may be? Perlepin's chart is a pretty good tool. It's not the be all end all. But in terms of, volume and building strength and kind of where you should be, it's a good guideline to know if you're doing too much or if you're loading too much or things like that. Generally speaking, if you are progressing in a steady manner, and it's sustainable and been sustainable, and you're not feeling any sort of discomforts anywhere or seeing any negative side effects or anything like that, I think you're probably fine. How frequently do you drink alcohol? What is your current workout split and frequency for this season of life? Alcohol, very rarely. I've had the same bottle of Henny in my cupboard for like 2 years now. There's like this much of it left, but I don't drink very often at all. Every now and then I'll go get a drink like at a restaurant or at a bar or something, but very rare. It's a good social lubricant, but it's not something I desire to do very often at all. My current workout split and frequency. So right now, I've been dealing with some lower body injuries, so it's an upper split. I've made a couple videos on it, but basically, Saturdays and Sundays are my two main training days. That's what life dictates. And right now, Saturday is push upper and Sunday is pull upper. I have been sprinkling some lower body stuff back in. I did some front squats this weekend. I post my training a lot more frequently on Instagram. So if you follow me there, you can see kind of the gist of what I'm doing a lot. And then like throughout the week, I get in when I can. I do here at work. I've got a rack and a barbell and weights and stuff, so I can get some work in here. But basically, it's that those 2 days, the Saturday, Sunday, are my main 2 days, and then otherwise, I fit in when I can. Normal uninjured me would be, lower body Saturday, upper body Sunday. and then I try to get another lower and another upper, in the week. I do cardio pretty much daily. But right now, like I said, it's upper, push pull, and then I try to do the same in the middle of the week if I can get it in. And I'm starting to sprinkle in a little bit more lower body stuff as I go. What kind of / how much conditioning would you recommend as a baseline for strength athletes? So you need slightly more conditioning, or to be slightly more conditioned than needed for your next training block. So basically I start at the bottom, conditioning, big long conditioning block, and you're building a pyramid. So you want a conditioning block to a hypertrophy block to a strength block to a peaking block, and then you repeat as necessary. And that's basically block linear periodization, and I kind of like to go by that. So you build this conditioning, and then you go into hypertrophy. So you've got more than enough conditioning to do your hypertrophy block, and you need enough to do the hypertrophy work, but also a little bit more so that you can recover from the hypertrophy work. And if you just sprinkle a little bit of that big conditioning base in with your hypertrophy work, to maintain said conditioning, you don't have to continue building that conditioning. And then the same when you transition from hypertrophy to the strength block. Now you don't need as much conditioning as you needed in the hypertrophy block to recover and accommodate your strength block, but you need just a little bit more, so you can dabble in, and it'll intersect. Like, it's not block and then block. It's kind of, the blocks kind of, it fades and blurs into each other. And so long as you have slightly more conditioning than needed for the next block, or the next phase of training or your competition, that's what's needed. So for powerlifting, you've got 9 lifts on the day, and it's a long day. And I think people, underestimate the conditioning needs for a powerlifting meet. So, you need to be able to do 3 lifts, then 3 lifts, then 3 lifts. But I would say the conditioning, you probably need to be conditioned to do 4 to 5 lifts, because it's going to be a long day, and then 4 to 5 lifts, and then 4 to 5 lifts. And then if you have that conditioning, then the 3 lifts shouldn't be an issue. And the highs and lows that come with a meet day, with getting your adrenaline up and then it coming back down and then having to get it back up again and things like that. So I would always err on the side of caution and just say you need to be slightly more conditioned than necessary for the upcoming training block or competition. Reverse GH, yes. Thoughts on powerlifting style deadlifts versus strongman style hitching fingertip fuckery? Should strongman move to a more strict model of deadlift? Should it allow sumo? Should it move to a more strict model of deadlift? No. I like strongman for what it is. Just get the shit up, and seeing the soft knees and the not full lockout, but it makes the judging easier. It's less convoluted. Let them wear suits, let them hitch, let them strap it up, figure 8s and fingertips. I'm okay with that. And they almost pull sumo anyway. Just, you look at some of the bigger guys, like Brian Shaw and stuff, and how wide their stance is. It's a sumo stance. They're just so big that their arms are outside their legs. I'm okay with them not allowing sumo. It keeps it unique. It keeps it strongman. So I'm fine with it how it is. As far as like one versus the other, they're 2 separate sports. So, that's fine too. A 3-pointer in basketball, versus, you only get 1 point for a goal scored in soccer, no matter where it comes from. It's apples to oranges. Like, should soccer have 3-pointers if you make a goal from beyond a certain distance or something, or 2-pointers or whatever? Like I said, apples to oranges, even though, it's the same. The name of the lift is the same. It's a deadlift versus a deadlift. The rules are different. Just like, soccer, you're trying to put the ball in the goal. Basketball, you're trying to put the ball in the goal, but it's a little bit different. So no, I think it's fine the way it is. And obviously, if somebody pulls 1,000 in a powerlifting competition, It's viewed differently than, you know, pulling 1,000 in a strongman competition. Da, 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 da. What things lifting or non-lifting related piss you off? Um, Elbow wraps on bench press piss me off. I fucking hate it. People do it for clout. It's fucking stupid. I've seen people bench pressing with elbow wraps and hitting a triple and then bombing out with the same weight in the meet. If you bench X amount of weight with elbow wraps, you don't bench that amount of weight. The elbow wraps are the new fucking slingshots, and clout lifting is taken over, so it is what it is. Grant Hill pisses me off because he's married to Tamia, and I should be married to Tamia, so fuck you, Grant Hill. Respectfully, you were a great basketball player, but fuck you, guy. Tamia is my favorite Canadian of all time, and she has the voice of an angel and the looks to back it up as well, and it should have been me. Have you ever dealt with pain on the outer side of the knee? No. Mine's been either tendonitis related or meniscus related. Greetings. After 2 months without training due to inflammation in the hip tendons, what program would you recommend to train again? Any linear program. Just start very conservatively. So 5-3-1, Juggernaut, anything like that, Ensigns, and just start conservatively. Give yourself plenty of room to ramp up. Do you think the top IPF guys are 100% natty? I think most of them are. There's certainly going to be some cheaters in everything. So I'm not naive. Of course, not everybody at the top is 100% natty, but I think most of them are very much. Relatively detailed account of your journey from the 585 to 675 range regarding deadlift progression, frequency, programming tips, and trips. So, typically, it was two days a week with pulling. 1 day would be off the floor, and sometimes it would be a like quote unquote harder variation, like paused or something like that. But it would be a lot of submaximal work. Like it wasn't near, you know, any upper percentages for the most part. And then the second day would usually be like off blocks or something like that. Also submaximal. Like a lot of my wagon wheel and block work, it never went over like my max deadlift off the floor anyway. I know a lot of people will use that as a tool for overload, and it can be, but I also think it's great, especially for somebody like me with shorter arms, a great tool to get some hypertrophy in, without, wrecking my recovery, because, that longer range of motion and getting in, bad positions, positioning is the hardest part for me on deadlifts, especially back when I was bigger. That's not the case anymore. But it was a lot of that, a lot of submaximal work, 2 days a week. Like I said, one day off the floor, 1 day elevated. A lot of those days off the floor were, pauses and things of that nature, double pauses sometimes. But it was all submaximal, and then like short peaking cycles, and then kind of rinsing and repeating. So it wasn't rocket science. It wasn't super duper complicated or anything. But that's basically what it was. Boobs man or ass man? Yes, I like both, but definitely ass I prefer, big time. And that's not even close. Some of y'all's comments on this picture were fucking hilarious too. How to tell if your feet are always the same width apart after a walkout. I thought about using tape markings, but don't want to rely on it. I mean, you can look down, like walk out and look down, and you'll see. And you can make micro adjustments after your walkout. It's another one of those feel things. Like practice and repetition is going to do you so much better than anything I'm going to tell you. So and sometimes it is finding visual markers, if you're using the same rack all the time, or if you're using a monolift or whatever the case may be, you can kind of get a good idea in space as to, where your feet are in relation to what points on the rack or the monolift, and that can help as well. And, you'll use these visual aids to help develop that feel, so it'll get to a point where it becomes robotic, and then you can, walk out of anywhere and know that your feet are going to be in the right spot just based on how they feel. What is the role of speed power catwork for a powerlifter / general strength enthusiast? Is it better to just do speed work with whatever lift you're trying to use, or use a power specific movement for that musculature, like a power clean for deadlifts? Is accommodating resistance particularly useful for speed work? All West Side. I've never used accommodating resistance, so I'm not going to speak on that. In terms of like speed and catwork, always specific to the lift is going to be the most bang for your buck. I don't know many, if any, great deadlifters that are using power cleans to, move their deadlifts up. I think that's one of those things that people early on will cite in their sort of, beginners and early intermediate phases. But in those phases, like, your lifts are going up regardless of what accessories you're using for them. So yeah, the lifts themselves, just doing the deadlifts fast. And even if you don't necessarily program like specific cat work in there, your warm-ups should be, as fast as possible. After you're, actually warmed up, like, don't just put 135 on the bar and just go straight to fucking trying to lift it through the roof. Like, make sure you're warmed up and everything first. Like, my early warm-ups in whatever lift I'm warming up for, like, I will move slowly through them and make sure that, that groove is greased and, my muscles are firing right. And then I'll start trying to, throw it through the ceiling. But that's a good way to get, cat work in, is in your warm-ups. Obviously, programming sub-maximal weights is a thing that I do a lot, and is something that a lot of my lifters do, and we see great success with. And oftentimes, after the first 8 weeks of having a new lifter come on with me, they will hit PRs, on their deload week. My week 9 deload, I just let them work up to like 1 RPE 9 single, because we've been blasting sort of conditioning and volume up to that point. And, more often than not, on 2 to 3 of those lifts, they'll hit a new 1 rep max out of nowhere with no peak or anything, just from that submax work and, putting intent behind the bar. And you can take that as far as you want. Nowadays, there's tools that measure and track velocity, and you can get really dumb accurate with it in predicting, your lifts on the day and what's there and things like that. I've not gone that far into it, but just generally speaking, using sub-maximal weights with the intent behind them, using like the actual lift you're trying to get better at, is going to be the thing. But, if you have secondary movements, of course, if you're doing, a front squat to help assist with your squats and deadlifts, by all means, you can do that cat work with that lift as well, and see some benefits transferring over. What do lifters gain training their neck? They gain muscles in their neck. What am I missing? Do you do them? I do not do them. When I was big, I had a hard time sleeping and breathing in my sleep. So I don't train my neck directly. I have big enough traps as it is, without like trying to make them actually big. I think for if you're looking for a certain look that involves a larger neck, by all means, you're going to train your neck, and that's what you're getting out of it. If you play a sport that involves impact, football, rugby, boxing, MMA, things like that, I would probably even venture to say, if you're like a race car driver at a high level and experiencing G-forces, developing the muscles around your neck to, help with impacts in that area is probably a sport specific thing, going out on a limb there, but I think it would be useful there. I think Josh Bryant's talked about that. For the general strength trainee, it's not completely necessary in my opinion. Like I said, if you want to have that certain look, and you want to develop the muscles around that area, by all means, go for it. But as far as like practical application, I'm and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of use case there other than like you just want to fucking do it, so do it because you enjoy it and that's what you like. But that's a wrap for this Q&A, y'all. Thanks for the questions as always. Peace!